Joining us now to discuss all of this, NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans and executive director and co-founder of the Yale Budget Lab, Martha Gimbel. She is a former senior advisor to the White House Council of Economic Advisors. Okay, Christine, China upping the ante here. What does all this mean for us?
I mean, look, at this point, these tariffs are so steep. There are some products that don't make any sense to trade between these two countries. And I think that's why the Chinese government said, we're going to meet you, Mr. President. We're going to raise these tariffs, these retaliatory tariffs, but we're not going to do any more after that. This is a joke at this point. So an insult, but at the same time, maybe suggesting an off-ramp. So people trying to figure out what exactly that means.
And so the Wall Street Journal frames it this way, though, because there are still major economic ramifications here. President Trump is pushing the world's two biggest economic powers into a battle that will leave neither unscathed and risks tanking the global economy. Explain why this battle between these two countries could have that far-reaching consequences.
Because they're the two largest economies in the world, and the relationship between the two basically it sets the stage for the entire global economy. The way bonds are traded, currencies are I mean, it's just remarkable. Larry Fink was just on our sister network, CNBC. He's a big investor, a BlackRock CEO and founder. He said the U.S. has become a global destabilizer. A global destabilizer. Wow. The United States for 80 years was the global
stabilizer.
Right, was the stabilizer. The opposite is happening now. So we're seeing big movements in the dollar down 5 days in a row. Look at the bond market. There was a bond market freak out earlier this week. And all this might sound like arcane, financial market stuff, but it really matters to the interest rates we pay, the level of the stock market, where our retirement savings are, and the prices we pay at the grocery store and for cars, and even the availability of jobs. So it all matters right now.
And so, Martha, J.P. Morgan Chase is still predicting a recession this year, calling the Trump tariffs the largest tax hike since World War II. That's even after the revised tariffs. You and the Yale Budget Lab have been calculating the impact of these tariffs on Americans. So bring us the details. How much more are people going to be paying?
So we're expecting people to pay about an additional $4,700 a year. That's a really big hit to household budgets. At this point, it's not even clear that that's the biggest risk, right? It's the uncertainty that all of this is creating.
$4,700 a year. Okay, so how does that break down? What specific goods will have people feeling that sticker shock?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is going to be clothing. We really don't make clothes in the United States anymore. And so the sticker shock that you're going to see when your kids outgrow clothes and you need to go buy them soon is going to be incredibly high. Food also going to get much more expensive. We import a lot of food.
Right. And then we're looking at this graphic that came from your calculations at the Yale Budget Lab that really does highlight the increase in expenses for a number of different products. Leather products taking the top increase, the biggest hit here, both in the short term and the long term. That's the other piece here, right? It's not just short-term pain. You are predicting long-term pain or long-term high prices. 27% more for clothing in the long run, 17% more for other textiles in the long term. Food prices up 3% in the long run. Fresh produce included in that, up almost 4% in the long run. Motor vehicle prices up 19% in the long run, according to your Yale Budget Lab. That is shocking, Martha. And at this point, President Trump, he hasn't backtracked on the Chinese tariffs, but he has wiggled and maneuvered so many other times along the way. Over the course of several weeks, frankly, his officials have said so many different things this week alone. I wonder, what is the impact on U.S. credibility in these next talks? Can countries trust the U.S. to make a deal?
I think that what you're seeing in the markets is reflecting people starting to realize that the U.S. is not going to be a stable partner anymore. We put out an analysis last May saying that markets were underpricing the probability of increased political risk in the United States, and that could have real implications on markets. And I think you are finally starting people to see that this is our new reality, that the U.S. is just a much more politically risky place than it used to be, and that has economic implications.
Christine, as the administration tries to wheel and deal with some of these different countries that have this 90-day pause, what industries here in the U.S. stand to benefit the most from making some kind of a deal? If you're the administration, what would you prioritize? Which countries, which products?
You know, that's a good question. We know that there are 15 countries that have come to the United States with an offer, and we don't know if it's going to turn out to be like a term sheet where they decide that they're going to lower tariffs together and then work toward a free trade deal after that. I think you want to prioritize farmers, farm equipment manufacturing. I think you want to prioritize the industries in the U.S. that are just so vibrant, that have these great markets in Europe and in China. I mean, China still is the big gorilla here. You know, this is the deal that they really need most desperately, because these are the two biggest economies and so embedded with each other. And, you know, especially for farm products. I mean, American-made soybeans, I don't know how they're even remotely attractive to sell into China right now with all of these tariffs. They would take Brazilian soybeans in a heartbeat. It would just make sense, you know? And so I really worry about farmers here, and I think I would think that they're prioritizing the best way to help farmers first.
Christine Romans and Martha Gimbel, thank you, ladies, for starting us off.